members, I would like to welcome you to the Easterseals Capital Region and Veterans Rally Point presentation. Our presenters are going to be John Welsh, Jason Sechrist, Josh Salazar, Vin O'Neill, and Lori Marriott. I'm going to go over some ground rules beforehand. Just letting everybody know that this session will be recorded. We'll be muting all microphones at the start of the presentation. If you'd like to ask a question, please type in the chat area and I will review and pass along to the presenter. If you're unable to utilize the chat, please raise your hand and you can be called on. Both features are located on the bar when you scroll over the meeting screen. Please do not share any personal identifiable information as these sessions are non-confidential. We ask that you please keep your camera off as this helps to keep the bandwidth down and improves connectivity. We hope you enjoy the presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Brigadier General Retired Ron Welch. I'd like to thank all of you for listening to our presentation today. Joining me are four other veteran members of our 10-person team. We represent 4 out of 5 services. First is Lori Marriott. She's a prior service active duty Army captain. She serves as our senior director of military services and our peer meetup group leader. Josh Salazar is a prior service United States Army non-commissioned officer and senior director of military services. He also works in marketing and philanthropy. Vin O'Neill is a retired United States Army colonel and senior director of military services at Veterans Rally Point 2, located over in Rocky Hill. And finally, we have Jason Sechrist. Jason is a prior service United States Marine Corps non-commissioned officer and director of our homeless veteran reintegration program. So next slide, please. So here's our agenda today. I'm going to give an overview of the Veterans Rally Point and the services that we provide. I'll be followed by Jason. Jason will talk about the homeless veteran reintegration program. He'll be followed by Vin O'Neill, who will talk about what happens over at Veteran Rally Point 2 in our transitional housing. And Lori will wrap things up and talk about our peer meetups. Josh will also join Jason and talk about some of the successes with the homeless veteran reintegration program and how that all. So next slide, please. Okay, so you met our team. Our rally point was established in 2017. Our first employee is pictured on the right. That's Lori Marriott. She was hired in March of 2018. Our core team consists of 4 members. We were fortunate enough to be awarded a federal grant last year that enabled us to expand it by 6 more members. So the whole team consists of 10. Our team has over 100 years of military experience. And as I said before, we represent 4 out of the 5 services. And we're still working on a member for the Coast Guard to join in. We're located on towards Stott Ave up in Norwich, and also right over on Rocky Hill on West Street, 287 West Street. The picture that you see up on the screen now is an event that we supported. It was one of the food drives with, we teamed up with House of Heroes, and we were able to distribute approximately 100 of those boxes to veterans. Next slide, please. So all our services are free to veterans, service members, and family members. We have individual and career counseling and development. As I said before, Lori runs the peer-to-peer meetups, which we do once a week, typically in the evening on Wednesdays. We have computer centers. Veterans and family members can come in each one of our locations. You can use those computers to write resumes, do job searching, those types of things. We also have professional as well as casual clothing at both locations. We happen to have a lot of it in Norwich, and we hope anyone listening could possibly come out to our locations and receive some clothing and food, especially tomorrow. We have non-perishable food. Our transitional housing, which you'll hear a little bit more about, was established to allow veterans that are transitioning to stay in free housing for about 4 to 6 months as they readjust and seek employment, find employment. We have assistance with job placement, and we also have VA benefit consultation and referrals. That picture that you see is a stand down at Rocky Hill a few years ago. Okay, next slide is, we're going to talk about the highlights of our build out. We were awarded a grant by the state of Connecticut a few years ago, and we're pleased to say that very shortly we're going to start building inside of the facility we have, building it out to provide more services. We'll have a company grade kitchen, a climbing wall, an operations center, maker space where veterans and family members can come in and do a project, kind of a hands-on project. We'll have a fitness center with locker room, multi-purpose area, computer lab. We'll expand what we have, meditation, relaxation rooms, another food pantry, clothing, and a military memory area, kind of like a little museum, plus a basic medical exam room. Next slide, please. So in the services that we'll provide within the build out, we'll have legal representation available, financial counseling. We plan on having a certified veteran service officer, credentialed behavioral health specialists, employment experts. We'll continue to do our peer-to-peer meetups, certified fitness trainer. Within the maker space, we'll have some professionals circulating around to help vets that are doing different projects and other functions to be determined. Next. So I'll be followed by Jason Seacrest and Josh Salzar, who will talk about the Veterans Integration Program. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for viewing our webinar here on our teams. I'm going to talk about our Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program, or what we refer to as HVRP. HVRP is a Federal Department of Labor Veterans Education and Training Service grant. This grant is to provide employment training to homeless veterans. So there's some eligibility criteria that we'll talk about, but basically this is assistance and guidance to homeless veterans to obtain gainful employment. And what we mean by gainful employment is employment that will support living lifestyle, right? So you can have a place to live, food on the table, clothing, and some form of transportation. We provide case management services, which means one-on-one services with those homeless veterans and our job placement specialists or our career coaches to develop resumes, do some interview training. We have some vocational training that we do internally and externally with our joint efforts with the American Job Center. Some of you refer to them as the Unemployment Office or the Employment Office, but those are considered the American Job Centers. And we have a team of partners that work with us there to do the resumes, interview training, and also make those connections to employment and training. We help with job search assistance with the veterans. We will sit with them one-on-one. We'll go over different places where they can search for employment, whether that be online through websites such as Indeed or Monster, or utilizing our Connecticut Hires system within the state of Connecticut. That's through the American Job Center. And then, of course, we can help them apply to these jobs, making sure that we get all the applications filled out appropriately and accurately. And then once we follow you through the interview and you actually get your placement in a career path, we make sure that we follow up with you to make sure that everything is going well. We want to make sure that the veterans feel comfortable in where they're at. And if there's some challenges that may come up, that we can work with them to mitigate those challenges or remove the barriers to keep them employed, so they can stay in those careers for a long period of time and be self-sustainable. This HVRP grant for Easterseals Veterans Rally Point was initially awarded in July of 2019. We did not have an HVRP program at the time, so we have built that from scratch over the past year. And luckily, we were chosen to continue with our option year for the year 2020, where we were also awarded the entire state. In 2019, we started out with just 3 counties. And because of our performance over that period and our dedication to providing homeless veterans those employment services, we were awarded for 2020. So we have the entire state of Connecticut. So any place where you have a veteran, if you yourself are a veteran living throughout the state, and find yourselves in either a homeless situation, living in transitional housing, going to shelters, or you're in a GPD or SSVF program, the Supportive Services for Veterans Families programs, you can qualify for our program, and we will work with you to get you employed. So no matter where you are in the state, please reach out to us. We'll have some contact information later in our presentation. Currently, to date, we have over 100 client enrollments, and those are growing every day. These are individuals that we have enrolled in the program and provided services to. And currently, we have just over 50 folks that we have placed into permanent employment at an average hourly wage of $17.09. As you can tell, that's pretty significant for individuals that may not have been working for a long period of time. We work with them. We try to fill that white space in their resumes, really curtail the resume to the veteran and what their skills and achievements are, and what they've done in their past. So even though you may have a break in time that you've worked, we'll work with you to overcome that barrier and really develop a good resume to get you out there to potential employers. We've assisted in placing 24 veterans into housing. Now we don't have, other than our transitional housing at Rocky Hill, which provides some housing for a small number of our clients, we work with other programs, GPD, SSVF, some of our other caregiver programs that are out there that provide us the opportunity to get individuals housed. So we've managed to assist 24 individuals in placing them into housing. And 80 of our 100 clients have received some form of employment service related training, whether that be vocational training, whether that's sit-down classroom resume training, or interview skills classes, in which we do, but we also do our vocational training as well. So we've been very successful thus far, considering the challenges that we've had over the last couple of years with our current climate and the way things are going. But very proud to have our HVRP program, very proud to provide services to those veterans that are most in need. So what we're going to talk about moving forward is Josh is going to overview the process of becoming an HVRP client and working with Easterseals Veterans Rally Point. So go ahead, Josh. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you to all who are listening or watching this presentation. We appreciate you being here. So, as Jason explained, the kind of nuts and bolts of our homeless veterans reintegration program. He kind of went and gave you an overview of what that program consists of and what we've been able to do with it within Easterseals Veterans Rally Point. So I'm going to take you a little bit through what the actual veteran experience is going through that program. I think what we want to do is generate a level of comfort and reassure veterans that this is a program with multiple steps geared toward the multitude of needs that are out there, that every single veteran case is different, and that their experience and the way that they go about things is different. And so, we wanted to remind any veteran who is interested or, maybe a prospective client within this program, reassure them that, this is something that is kind of custom tailored and built for them. So first step in the process is our intake, and that is kind of that initial call where we go and we get some basic information on the veteran, talk about their veteran status, where they've served, and really develop a the beginnings of a personal relationship, as far as, talking about what brings them in there, maybe hearing a little bit about their own personal struggle, maybe hearing a little bit about, how they want things to go for themselves, or, some maybe barriers that they have on hand that we need to be aware of. From the intake stage, then comes assessment. So we'll actually take what we've learned in that intake, and then we'll begin to assess whether or not they are a good fit for the HVRP program, or potentially a better fit for our regular Rally Point program. And so we'll assess them on their qualifications for HVRP. Again, this is a program that is geared towards homeless veterans. And so we'll look at the current living situation. And also, it's really geared towards employment as well. And so we kind of have to make an assessment as to a veteran's desire to be employed, and that it's something that they want to do. Again, this program isn't going to work as well for a veteran who doesn't see themselves or doesn't wish to be employed currently, and may see employment down the road as a future step. In which case, then we would turn them over to our Veterans Rally Point side and begin helping their case there. After the assessment stage, we go into enrollment. So that's where we kind of make things official, and we get these different pieces down on our paperwork. And what that consists of is, starting to organize thoughts. We start to organize personal goals. As you'll see in our next step, we identify kind of your work goals, what you want to do. We're not in a position to tell a veteran, here's what's going to make you happy. Here's what's the type of employment that you are going to sustain for a long time. Here are your goals. We actually open up our ears and listen to them and have them really speak to their own experience and tell us what they would like to do with not just their life, but their work life and how they wish to be employed. Next, we'll look at different resources for those veterans. So we'll take those work goals and then branch out, to some of our many partners that are out there, or some of the systems that we currently use, and say, okay, now that we've identified your work goals, how do we make those realities? How do we take what you want to do and actually find a way to do it? And we'll go over a multitude of resources, from writing a resume that helps you get a job in whatever field that you would like to be placed into. We might identify some training. We might identify some supplemental courses or things that you will need to find, as we called it before, gainful employment in any industry. We'll also look at where to place your resume, who to talk to. We'll go over, how are you interviewing? I think when people jump into the workplace, that first interview a lot of times is what might cause anxiety or keep somebody from even getting into the employment search process. And so we try to reassure any veteran and prepare them for that first interview experience, so that it's a pleasant one for them, and really highlights their abilities and their goals. Look, we're dealing with veterans here. We're dealing with people who kind of raised their hand and agreed to serve their country, and that in and of itself is such a qualifying piece of employment. And we really work with veterans on how to highlight that key component of who we all are as veterans, highlight that when it comes to applying for a job, and then taking those other supplemental skills and using that to boost who they are in the eyes of who's ever interviewing them or the prospective employer. So once that's all done and we're able to line up the veteran with a job and employment, our goal is to make sure that that employment is sustainable. It's one thing to get a job, get through the door and begin working, but it's quite another thing to actually sustain and keep that employment, right? So, part of the other steps in the process there was to have a veteran arrive at that employment stage and arrive at something that's going to make them happy. something that's going to highlight their skills, and something that they're going to keep and be able to grow in any position. And then, the final piece of this is our checking on our accountability as a program. At Easterseals, Veterans Rally Point, and our HVRP program, we find value in following up to make sure that we were able to do what we set out to do, and that you still are happy in your employment, and that we were able to touch on and meet those goals, because that means a lot to us. And so that follow-up component ensures that we are accountable for the promises and maybe the dedication that we've made to each of our veteran cases, and that, if there is something that may have fallen short, if things, there are other complications may kind of arise, that we're able to address those. We don't simply give you a job and, abandon a veteran. We're there with them every step of the way, and then we'll continue to do so. Even as they, migrate from our HVRP program and start to look into some of our other programs that we offer at Veterans Rally Point. And that's going to bring me to introducing actually the next speaker here, which is Lori Marriott. She's going to begin, or sorry, it's going to be Vin O'Neill, and he's going to talk about another program that we have within the VRP family, and something that we've added recently, and it's really proving to help out a lot of people and really take them on a good path in their lives. So thank you very much for listening, and on to you, Ben.
Okay. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for sharing some time with us today and learning about our programs. And before I start, I would be remiss, before I start talking about our transitional housing in Rocky Hill, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank DVA and Commissioner Sadi for allowing us use of these houses, and for all their help getting these houses up and running, and for their continued day-to-day collaboration to make this successful. So our transitional housing, you're available for a 4-month stay. We have 4 houses altogether. 3 will either be all male or all female. 1 house is designated for families. Each resident has their own bedroom, with the bathroom, kitchen, and living room are going to be shared with the other residents of the house. And the price is right. Price is $0 to stay with us for those 4 months. The reason for $0 is this is transitional housing, and we want you to save your money to get you ready for the next step in your life. Next slide. You get the next one, Joe? There we go. And then our eligibility, we're now in the time of COVID, so it's not on the slide, but the obvious requirement is just going to be, the start point is going to be a negative COVID test for us. You can take a second to look at our eligibility criteria here now. It's pretty self-explanatory. And we follow the same rules as the main campus on DVA, the same eligibility requirements. So if you're eligible for admission with them, you're probably going to be eligible for admission with us. Next slide. In our transitional housing rules, we've got a 3-page document that has all of our rules on it, but that's encapsulated with what you see on the screen here. We take care of ourselves, we take care of each other, and we take care of this place. Take care of ourselves. You're preparing for the next step on your journey. You're going to be staying with us for up to 4 months, but you need to be ready mentally, physically, and spiritually. So take the time to prepare yourself while you're with us. Take care of your fellow residents. Obviously, we consider this a neighborhood over here. The different people that live in the different houses are your neighbors. Take care of each other. And then take care of our neighborhood. Take care of this place. Keep everything clean, keep everything orderly, keep everything tidy. And then I know it's a short pitch, but to connect with us, our contact information is on the last slide. You're welcome to come up and visit us anytime, take a look at our housing. And Lori Marriott is going to be next. She's going to be talking about our peer meetup groups.
Thanks, Vin. Thanks so much, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. I really wish it was in person, like stand downs of past, but yet COVID has come into our lives and we have to react and make the best of what we can do. And I too would like to thank DVA for putting this together, finding a way for us to still gather if not in the physical being able to gather this way and get our information out to you. So our peer group started up on July 15th, 2019. We started with a pretty small group, and that first Wednesday night, we meet on Wednesday evenings from 5 to 6:30. And the following week, I think we had 2 people, and the week after that, maybe we had 3, but we kept putting it out there. We kept saying we were here, and it was really word of mouth, and probably along with our social media. We are out there on Facebook and Instagram. If any of you are out there on Facebook, you can follow us at Veterans Rally Point. And our peer group has a group out there on Facebook where I try to keep people in the loop. I also correspond mostly with our group through emails, and good old-fashioned phone call never hurt. So the great thing about our peer groups is it's all about friendships, connecting with other veterans, getting the support that only another veteran can know because we've shared similar experiences. It's a judgment-free zone. We come together, we sit, we talk, we have refreshments, and it's grown into quite a little gathering. People have told me that they look forward every week to getting together with this group. So next slide, please, Josh. So we're located here next to Dodd Stadium. I think we're two buildings down from Dodd Stadium, 24 Stott Avenue in Norwich, in the industrial park. Some of the things that we do, we have subject discussion meetings. So ahead of time, I'll talk with some of our veterans that are in our peer meetup, and I'll ask them if there's anything that they do for a hobby outside of coming to our group that they'd like to share with some of the other groups. So if there isn't any kind of a hobby being shared that night by a presenter, we'll just do an open discussion meeting. And we've had everything from people sharing their transition from the military life back into the civilian world. We've had people come in and talk about dealing with depression in their lives and sharing with the group how it is that they've been able to manage when they're in these dark times. There's been some really, really great discussions, and I have watched over this year how some people who really weren't talking much when they first came are really opening up. People feel like they are really among friends when they come. We've talked a little bit about how the issue and growing problem with 22 veterans a day committing suicide. Some people have shared about some of their friends that they served in combat with recently who have committed suicide, and how they wish that they could have done more, and they're suffering a little bit of that survivor's guilt. And it has really opened a dialogue up with our group. We also like to have our hobby presentations, and a few of the hobby presentations that we've had, I like to call it show and tell. That little fun kind of school thing we used to love. Think back to those days where you'd bring in your favorite toy to share with the class when you were in first grade, but this is adult show and tell. And we have one gentleman in our group who is an Army veteran, but his hobby is making wooden Navy ships. So he brought in his entire fleet of ships one night and shared with us how it is that he puts those boats together. And while we were talking and gathering around the table, a couple of the Navy vets in the group had served on some of these ships and boats. They were able to share a little bit about their experience when they served. They were Vietnam veterans. We have a very much a mix in our group. Everything from a 28-year-old actively serving Air Force recruiter all the way on up to our oldest veteran, I believe, is 75-year-old Vietnam veteran. Other show and tells that we've had for our presentation night was an Afghan deployment. We had, actually, it's a member of our team who just spoke earlier this afternoon, Ron Welsh. He shared about his deployment to Afghanistan. He brought in a giant map and spread it out on our conference room table. He had a little jeweled hat that the little Afghan boys would wear. He brought in a burqa for us to see and touch. I mean, we've seen them in the news, but to see these women who wear these burqas and their whole world is through this little world is right here for them. It was really some powerful stuff. He showed us on the map on the ground where it was when he was out and walking and going up mountains and down into valleys. And again, it opened up a dialogue with some of our Vietnam veterans who actually hadn't spoken much about their experiences when they were in Vietnam, and it gave them an opportunity to open up. Also, there's been nutrition, basic 101 nutrition classes, trying not to scare people too much about what to eat and what not to eat, but just giving them little tidbits and tools that can help them be healthy. We also had a World War II slideshow presentation one night, and one of the other things we did was a salad workshop, and everybody brought in a couple of different ingredients, and we went in our back commercial kitchen in our back day support area, and we put together salads in mason jars, and everybody left with 2 healthy meals for the week. Some outside speakers, we're actually going to be starting to grow this list. Hoping to have, local area, the vet center, maybe Natalie Martinez come over, talk with us. She's actually a member of our peer group. She has come before. Maybe Manny will come over and talk to us a little bit about what Congressman Courtney is doing. There are so many amazing veteran-centric organizations. We'd love to have them all come over and introduce them and their programs to us. We did go on our first field trip, and that actually was the first picture, the first slide was our peer group. We met up at the Greater Middletown Military Museum out in Middletown. Also located out there is the Connecticut Trees of Honor. It was an amazing, powerful, emotional, and educational trip for all. We're hoping to do these field trips possibly on a quarterly basis. We have a few people in our group who are connected in different ways. One of the gentlemen is a Vietnam Navy veteran who has a friend that runs the Battleship Cove in Fall River. And it looks like we may be setting up a private trip to go out there and make it probably a day trip on a Saturday. So really looking forward to that. Some other ideas for field trips are the New England Air Museum and the USS Nautilus. Next slide, please. So pre-COVID, I like to say right now we're in the middle of CC, which is crazy COVID, but pre-COVID, before COVID, we used to attend the Veteran Coffee House meetings across the state. I know now, I think we're up to 19, I was told last known before COVID, and I know that some of them now are starting to slowly open up. We try to have a face at each and every one of these coffee houses, if not weekly, if they're close by, at least on a monthly basis, to get out there, talk about our services, who we are, both at Veterans Rally Point and through our HVRP program. We are invited to many local events and parades. And we like to, partake in those if we can. If we're around and we can get there, we have actually supported Wreaths Across America. The last 2 years, we took our fleet of vehicles here and we convoyed from Norwich down to Middletown to the Veterans Cemetery there. And we were doing free shuttle services for people who were coming there to lay the wreaths on the graves of our heroes. That also, it's a very meaningful day, and we get a lot of volunteers who like to come out and help us out on that. We've appeared three separate times on the Veterans Corner TV show. We also have been on the Renshaw Report, which is out of Waterford. Just trying to let people know who we are. I think the best way to get people to know that we're here and we're here to help you is by word of mouth. We have had many invitations to speak outside of our organization. The Norwich City Women's Club I spoke at last Christmas. Ron has spoken at A Reason to Ride. He also spoke at Hike to Remember. And again, any way we can get out and have that opportunity to speak and tell people who we are, we're going to take it. At the beginning of, actually last winter, we were asked to partner with the Massachusetts Military Support Foundation, and we were together with them on their Coats for Vets program. And we had over 4,000 coats be distributed from our facility here in Norwich. We had different veteran organizations from across the state. We had American Legions, VFWs, some of the coffee houses, some of the vet centers coming statewide to pick up coats for their veterans in need. We also, at the beginning of COVID, were contacted again by the Massachusetts Military Support Foundation. They know that we were able to assist them before with the coats. They reached out to us and asked us if we'd like to partner with them on food for vets. And we distributed 15,000 meals to Connecticut veterans. One of the pictures there in the middle, the bottom middle there, that's Ron and I. We were out delivering warming buckets and warming kits. We distributed 115 of those last winter. So we are looking to get the word out that we are here for you. Ron mentioned earlier about our build out that's coming. This is going to be a one-stop shop for you to walk in the door, you know, come to a peer group, come and have a cup of coffee, meet some other veterans in the community, and know that you are not alone. And now I'm going to pass it back to Ron Welsh for the closing and the conclusion of our presentation. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Lori. As we close, I really would like to thank Commissioner Tom Soddy for the partnership that we've developed that Vin talked about before. Without the support of the great employees over at Rocky Hill, Connecticut State Department of Veterans Affairs, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. So Tom, again, we thank you for your support. So as we wrap up today, there's a couple things we want to leave you with. Our team was pretty adamant about this when we put this together. There's a couple things that aren't up there on the screen that I want to emphasize to all of you. First, our services are confidential. We're non-judgmental. We've probably heard everything, seen everything, whatever that's out there. So we're not going to judge you. We have dealt with a lot of the issues that you might be dealing with. We're either dealing with them ourselves now, or we have in the past. We've all been in boots before. We've been out in the cold. We've been in the wet. We've been out there before. We feel that we can relate to some of the situations that you might be encountering now. So our services, again, free, non-judgmental, confidential. And I want to say that rank, regardless of what your rank was when you served, you could be a senior person, you could still have issues. We're all human, right? Doesn't matter. You could have left as a private or you could have left as a general. Everybody's got something going on. So we're here for you. You'll find if you connect with us, you'll develop friendships that'll last you maybe a lifetime. The housing part of it that Vin talked about, it's not long-term, it's transitional. But we do have some space available for you if you need it. We have plenty of food. As we get these build-outs done, we will connect with one of the formal food banks in Connecticut, and we'll be able to expand that. Jobs, Jason's team has done a great job on the homeless veteran reintegration program about connecting people with real meaningful jobs. And I know that that part of the team will continue to work that every single day, because we know how important it is as you transition and reintegrate to have a paycheck, to have a place to live, and feel like you're part of things so you can live the best life that you possibly can live. So we're here to support you. Our contact information is up there on the screen. And those of you and all of you that have served, we know that you just didn't want a handout. You've got a lot of pride, and we pride ourselves upon being able to connect with you and give you a hand up, not a handout. We're not going to stand volunteer and just write you a check and hand it to you for $500. That's not what we're about. We want to help you overcome some of the obstacles and some of the challenges you have. Again, so you can become employed and move on with your life. So that's all we have today. And again, we thank you for your prior service, and we wish you all the best of everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much for all that you do for our community and for the veterans. You guys do amazing work, and I hope you feel great at the end of the day. Really appreciate your help with the presentation and with stand down, and thanks again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.